What's better than one Hellblaster volley gun? Why, 4 Hellblaster volley guns, of course. Today, Slade X gonna be fighting it out on the classic Crossroads map here with the Empire versus Norsca. And the guns of Nuln will roar. We've got 4 Hellblaster volley guns, 2 regular great cannons, a single huntsman backed up by 2 Knights of the Blazing Sun, General of the Empire, and Free Company Militia up front. Very, very cool build here. You know, some people might call this a little cheesy, taking this much artillery in multiplayer, but against a decent rush here, we'll see how effective it ends up being. On the other side, we've got Wulfric the Wanderer, already some Warhounds, some Norscan Warhounds pushing up the side. We've got Ice Wolves and Armored Skin Wolves as well. On this side, no Ice Wolves, just the Armored Skin Wolves over here, and then a front line of Marauders backed up by some Berserkers, a few Throwing Axes as well, and of course, Shaman Sorcerer. So right off the bat, Knights of the Blazing Sun are going to get started with an active defense here. This is generally how you want to play with a sort of defensive missile style build when you have counterpunch units, is to be active with them and try and seek out your enemy's mobile units, just crush them. I mean, obviously it helps that the Knights of the Blazing Sun are just fantastically good at doing shock damage, and fire damage in particular is going to make them absolutely brutal, hammering into some Skin Wolves here. I mean, their Skin Wolves are going to die in a big hurry. They just single charge, pretty much going to rout them and their Marauder counterparts there. Hellblasters are opening up already, have torn apart these Marauder Hunters here, but they're starting to get into combat already. Hellblasters getting engaged by some Berserkers here, even as the Berserkers take some pretty horrendous losses. Spirit Leech out in the distance there on those Knights of Blazing Sun. Their spell resistance will help them somewhat, in that they won't take quite so much damage. On the other side here as well, Knights of Blazing Sun savagely destroying those Skin Wolves. And it's looking pretty dicey for the artillery. Hellblaster volley guns opening up. Wulfric definitely feeling some significant pain, but because the artillery is largely focused on Wulfric, that does mean a lot of this Norscan infantry is able to get through, start engaging in melee, more Marauders sweeping up the side here. This Hellblaster volley gun's offline. This one is soon to be offline. A nice net comes from the Light Wizard of the Empire. Yep, we've got a Light Wizard here with just classic nets only. Very cheap kit, just to go as wide as possible on guns. Lore of Boat's going to be unleashed to deal devastating damage to the Sterling's Avenge. Also hits that Hellblaster as well, just to start to disrupt the crew, but Wulfric ends up paying the price. More Marauders come through and get on this great cannon here. Not before... Is this the actual Hammer of Witches? It is. In fact, I was like, hey, that looks different. It's slightly bronze colored, maybe gold even. Knights of the Blazing Sun again, just protecting a beautiful rear charge here. Who thought you could hammer an anvil with a cannon crew? Anyway, yeah, this General of the Empire here, leading the Empire force, of course. Nothing on him. He's just standard, no abilities on foot. Wulfric falls in the distance to the cannon fire as the Berserkers continue to press their advantage in melee, trying to run down these Huntsmen, get on these last artillery crews. So pretty much all the artillery have been shut down except for the Hammer of Witches. Knights of Blazing Sun are coming to try and maybe bail out this Hellblaster crew. They could come and get back on their guns potentially in the late game here, but we'll see. Light Wizard dueling with a Shaman Sorcerer in the Wizard's duel here. Light Wizard on foot, Shaman Sorcerer. Seems like he's just a smaller guy overall, which is kind of interesting, but ends up disengaging there, trying to utilize what remains of his mobility there. And things are looking pretty good for the Empire at this point. I mean, balance of power-wise, they're pretty far ahead. The fact that Norsca's lost their leadership is going to be a big problem, and they actually don't have a good response to the Knights of the Blazing Sun here. So, although, you know, it's built on the Hellblasters, because Quad Hellblaster is definitely a Chad move, absolutely. In reality, what carries this particular battle is what has always carried this matchup, and it's actually an interaction specifically that has inspired me a lot over time. It's one of the original interactions that I actually covered on my channel, which is Knights of the Blazing Sun specifically against Norsca, and the advantages of fire damage when facing off against Norsca. Of course, here Slade took Lore of Light for nets, which makes sense given the missile orientation of his build, but of course you could take Lore of Fire as well get Kindle Flame procs, to get additional weakness to fire on stuff like Skin Wolves. And, I mean, you look back, one of the first videos that I think I'm really proud of is a video, again, it's featuring Empire versus Norsca, specifically talking about that interaction. So it's an old one, but it's a great one, and it's one that has served Slade well here. Not for the Knights of the Blazing Sun. He might have actually lost this at the end of the day. Norscan Rush was mobile enough and managed to shut down many of the artillery pieces before they were able to pay for themselves. I mean, we'll see in the end screen that most of the artillery was ineffective in terms of cost. Again, tactically kind of drawing Norsca into that unfavorable rush situation might have been good in and of itself, but definitely the Knights of the Blazing Sun are what carried a lot of the actual army damage. So, Huntsman, Free Company, unleashing their last few volleys there as the Berserkers try and run down the general there. More Knights of the Blazing Sun, though, continuing to strike out. And look at that, the one Hellblaster volley crew that survives manages to get to their guns. The Light Wizard escorting them over, protecting, and that is going to basically lead to army losses for Norsca. So there you go. Very fun replay. Big thanks to Slade for sending that one in and for just being an awesome guy, memeing quite a bit. I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, only really 2 of these artillery pieces pay for themselves, right? The Hammer of Witches, even then, not totally cost-effective. The one Hellblaster volley gun does as well. Free Company and Huntsman end up being cost-effective, though, for the most part. Light Wizard, of course, some key nets there to help take down Wulfric. And then, yeah, the Knights of the Blazing Sun, 2,200 and 1,800 a pop. 20,000 damage plus a piece. 177, 166 kills. Beautiful near symmetry there. And, yeah, just fantastic. Love these units. One of my favorite looking units in the game. And certainly wildly effective against Norsca. And, yeah, we've got on Norsca's side, most of the units kind of underperforming. Icehorn's Marauders actually do quite well in this type of a situation. The Berserkers also, once they get into combat, they can actually carve out some pretty good value. Marauder Spearmen could have used some more of these and maybe swap these out for more Javelins as well. It is definitely something to watch out for against the Empire. You know, this specific cavalry interaction means that one of your standard kind of anti-cavalry tools in this Armored Skin Wolves isn't going to work very well. You need to find other solutions to deal with Empire heavy cavalry, and that often is the most challenging thing in this matchup. Like, even though Slade took a defensive missile-oriented build here and his shock cavalry still ended up doing quite well, in my experience, taking just a full counter rush with Empire with a lot of fire damage, Knights of Blazing Sun, and just hit Norsca really hard, you have a hard time dealing with something like that. So, yeah, I don't know. I'd have to kind of workshop this matchup again a little bit and see with where things are at now. I don't think new stuff would have changed a lot, but like a mobile attack swarm with Norsca with a lot of throwing axe cavalry and hounds, and then you supplement the Skin Wolves in there so they're not taking the brunt of the damage of the Empire shock cavalry charges. Probably the best way to go. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Hopefully enjoyed that one. If you like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.